Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Off the Crutch. I have returned after a few months of being away. I am so excited that I get to record again, and I have a lot to talk about. So let's get right into it. If you've been following the podcast for quite some time, you will know that 10 years ago, I gave my first TEDx talk on social inclusion in education. I talked about my time in the classroom and the students who would be curious about my disability and had a bunch of questions, but were afraid to talk to me about it. And so I decided that I wanted to share more of my experience in that way on a bigger stage. And I had the opportunity to do that 10 years ago. Back in November, I saw an opportunity to submit an application for a TEDx event, and that's what I did. I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew that I was doing this. And in January, I got the email that I was selected to give my second TEDx talk in Austin, Texas. So it is the TEDx South Congress. And also, if you've been following my podcast, you will know that I spent the past several months visiting Austin, and I must say that I have such an affinity with the city that it is no coincidence that I applied for this TEDx event. And I'm so excited on May 3rd to be giving this talk with so many other amazing speakers, and I'm just really grateful because this was something that I wanted to accomplish for this year, and to do it in a city that I really love is going to mean a lot to me. So I'm excited, and hopefully when it comes out, I can put it on my podcast, and then I'll share the video on my website and all that stuff. So I think at some point, all of you will hear it. So yeah, I'm just preparing. I've been working on it since the beginning of January, and I have a good team that's supporting me, and it's going to be good. So that's the first thing. The second is I, surprisingly, went to Austin twice in February, and my last visit, I spent 3 days at South by Southwest, which is I think one of the largest music, tech, electronic. I mean, there's so much going on at South by Southwest, movies, music, film, all that. But I had the opportunity to go for 3 days and be around some amazing content creators. And I got a lot of great insight on how to develop more content, what I can do better for my podcast. And I will go in a deeper dive on that when I have the South by Southwest president on my podcast. I will have an interview with him next week. So in the next few weeks, I'll have that out, and I'll talk more about my experience there. And it's just going to be a really great conversation with you. So I'm excited. The other thing that I did when I was in Austin for 12 days was spend a day trip in San Antonio. And part of the reason I went to San Antonio was my speaking coach lives there. So I had the opportunity to meet her in person. And I also got to visit Morgan's. Morgan's is a big organization that is well known for their accessible theme park called Morgan's Wonderland. Now, Morgan's has a studio in one of their buildings, and I had the opportunity to be interviewed in their studio and talk about my journey as somebody with a disability and my podcast. And so that's going to come out pretty quickly, I think, because now it's already been like 2 or 3 weeks. My first guest of 2025 is Emma Faye Rudkin. Now, I've wanted to get Emma Faye on my podcast for quite some time because she is such a trailblazer when it comes to not only the disability community, but the nonprofit community and business in general. So I was super excited when she agreed to come on my podcast recently and talk to me about her story. So Emma Faye went profoundly deaf at the age of 3 and has spent her life turning her disability into an ability. Emma Faye is an internationally known role model and public speaker for the deaf and hard of hearing community and is the founder and executive director of Aid the Silent. She goes into more detail about that in our interview, which I can't wait for you all to listen to. Emma Faye is one of the kindest individuals that I've interviewed. And I think that her story definitely had a big impact on what it is like to navigate life with a disability and not to go through life with excuses and to continue moving forward with grit and resilience. So, to hear her story and what she has to navigate on a daily basis was inspiring, and her impact is definitely felt outside of San Antonio and Texas. I just want to say that I'm so glad that you all are listening again, and I have a lot of things that I'm going to bring to the table this year. So, let's get into this interview with Emma Faye, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much, Emma Faye, for coming on the podcast today. It's been so long, and I've been a fan of yours for so long. So I'm super excited that we're finally
Yeah,
talking today.
me too. I've been wanting to connect, and we have a lot of similarities, and I think how we view the world and being an overcomer.
hmm And I was recently in your city, and I just have to say that I love San Antonio, Emma.
It's awesome, right? It's an
It's so
awesome
great.
city.
It's
That the
so great.
culture, the people, it's just very fun. It feels like that small town feeling, but in a big city.
What do you like most about San Antonio?
Honestly, I'm super proud of Morgan's Wonderland, all the nonprofits here. And Ava Silent is the nonprofit that I founded 10 years ago, and San Antonio has been the best landscape for it to thrive. It's become home for all of our kids and families, and they just let us really in an environment where we can become all that we are made to be.
So you started a nonprofit 10 years ago. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's amazing.
Thanks. So it comes from my own story of losing my hearing around 3 and just the struggles of education, language, equal access, and very much watching my own family figure out how to finance the equipment, how to get access and education with teachers and all of that. So Ava Silent started around the time I was 18 years old. And we have just been growing ever since. Of course, there's been, some barriers or roadblocks, but I think when you play the long game of developing a nonprofit that you know will outlast you, it's playing that long game. It's showing up every day when it's hard, even.
Yeah. I think when you're doing something that comes out of your story, it makes that just more impactful because now you're able to talk to donors and people about your story and the mission. And I think that they're more open to supporting you in many different ways.
Oh, for sure, because they know I've lived it, I understand it, I have firsthand experience, I know the language behind it, meaning I know what it's like to be a deaf child who's struggling in school. I know what it's like to be lonely and struggle with depression. And so I'm able to speak from it firsthand. And that also makes me able to connect with our families, knowing that I know what it's like to have a really young mom who's afraid of what is my life gonna look like and what's it gonna be like one day to have a job or to learn to drive. So I have all of those perspectives, which makes it really relatable to clients. And it also makes me a really great storyteller to donors.
Mm. So in the 10 years so far, what's been maybe the most impactful story that you've heard from, I don't know, either a volunteer or just someone that has been involved with your organization?
Yeah, there's so many incredible stories, especially over 10 years. But I would say probably one of the most impactful ones is I really do invest in young people, especially our teenagers. So we help children from birth all the way to high school graduation. But I particularly have you know, started the Deaf Young Life, which is the teen program. And so a lot of times we meet them when they're little and we help them get hearing aids or speech or teach them sign language or take them to a little elementary camp. But once they become high school students, we actually have a mentoring program that I go to as one of the mentors. We have a group of amazing adults who deaf or they are fluent in sign language. And that's why I see them as life change because we're with them every week. We're helping them at school. We show up to their sporting events. We help drive them places. We've taught them to drive. And I had one kid that I started working with when he was in middle school from a Title I school. And when I first met him, he would only wear a black hoodie. He would cover his hearing aids, even in Texas heat, 100 degrees. He was wearing a black hoodie to hide his hearing aids. And so with working with him over time, we would take him to camp. We would help him, get hearing aids and all that. But he was going to the summer camp in Texas wearing his black hoodie. I was like, dude, everybody here is like you. Just embrace
Mm,
it. Just accept it.
mm,
And so we saw this kid go from being so insecure to, taking off a hoodie, sharing his hearing aids. And then he started coming to when he got to high school with me in the weekly teen group. And at first he would hear about it's a faith-based teen program. So it's faith-based. Sorry, Hank is being loud. My favorite dog, Hank. So faith-based camp, and he just at first was like not into it, not about it, and then slowly over time you just see his walls falling down. And it ended with him when he's going into his senior year. He's a senior now. We took them backpacking in Canada. It was a 6 day on trail, extremely hard. And he just wanted to give up the first 3 or 4 days. He can't do it. It's too hard. And it was hard. I mean, I love hiking and into that, and he was about to give it, but then you could see that character shift. And he wanted that radical life change. He wanted to be deep in that character. And so he ended up becoming a Christian. He decided that on his own up the mountain. And then it's so cute because he wanted to get baptized in a glacier pool. So in the middle of snow and all that. And he asked to be baptized in the glacier pool right there. And so that all happened up on this mountain. So we come home and he's just a different kid. He became a student leader. He now volunteers to help his friends. He's an advocate for his friends. He is such a leader at his school. And so that's the kind of life training that we're investing in is we work with them from the time that they're young all the way to high school graduation. And then a lot of them stay around. A lot of the kids we've helped, because now we've done this for 10 years, they come back and they start volunteering. They start becoming mentors. They start, coming and doing events with us. And so that's the most beautiful part of it is now we're seeing generational change.
wow. So it seems like you're playing two roles with Aid the Silent and Deaf Young Life. Okay, deaf, yeah.
Deaf
So
young
deaf,
life.
yeah, Deaf Young Life. So you're being a leader in both capacities, but I could see
Mhm.
how, and it seems like both those organizations overlap with your overall mission.
They do. Yes. One of the missions of Ava Silent is to get Deaf Young Life to be successful, to be standing on its own. But it's fantastic because it's that discipleship, it's that long-term investment in people. So when we help the kid get the initial resource and it's all medical, there's that critical part of peer support. There's that critical part of spiritual. A lot of people who are deaf don't have access to the spiritual. And that's a critical part of mental health and feeling connected to the community. So those things all end up working together really beautifully because we'll meet kids through the teen program who need hearing aids, who need support. And then you meet kids when they're younger and you plug them into the teen program eventually. So it's all very cohesive and relationships. And it also helps create adventure for deaf kids. So we love creating opportunities for them to have adventure, for them to live outside of just the bus route from home to school. So some of our kids, they've never left Texas. They've never left San Antonio. And so to provide opportunity for them to get out of the city into nature, to see the stars, to ride a horse, to go fishing, to go hiking. It's so important for kids to not just get those medical resources, but also to get adventure.
There's so much there, I think, that you've said that I
Mhm.
resonate with because when you have a disability, you go through all those things that you're saying. And
Mhm.
community is so important to have because having a disability can make you feel isolated.
For sure. Yes, that was most of my life, was feeling that isolated, lonely feeling.
And that's one of the things that I appreciate about Austin is there is that sense of community. And then when I visited San Antonio in the short amount of time, it seemed like people were very welcoming there. I mean, maybe I'm a little biased because I kept seeing my name everywhere, but then when
Yes,
I was at the
Travis
Pearl,
Part. Yes.
yes. Well, but then, at the Pearl, I go there and it's like Hotel Emma. It's like, oh my gosh, Emma's got her own hotel. That is
I
so cool.
know. Emma, Hotel Emma, named after me. No, but it was named after a sassy lady. She was gritty. Yeah. So she was sassy and she saved her company during the Prohibition. So she was a different Emma, but similar vibes.
Yeah, for
Just like a
sure.
tough lady. Yeah. So, but yeah, I love San Antonio and Austin. I think they're the greatest cities in Texas for sure. Yeah, I think you just like Texas. That's what you like. You like the Southern hospitality.
I think that's it. I think that's it. You mentioned Morgan's. And so I was also at Morgan's. If you want to, I'll talk a little bit about it. I've known about Morgan's for quite some time. And for people
Hmm.
who are unfamiliar, Morgan's is a huge brand, but I think they're more well known for their accessible theme park. At least that's
Yes.
how I got connected with them. And so part of my day in San Antonio was to be interviewed over at Morgan's. And it just so happened that the week before, or maybe several days before, you were
Yeah.
there. So that was even cooler because
The
everyone's like,
same. Yeah.
yes. Everybody just kept singing your praises when I
Oh,
brought you up. It was just like really cool because I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, Emma Faye is awesome. And so
thanks.
now here we are, full circle moment. What's been your experience with Morgan's?
I mean, from early days, honestly, 'cause when I ran the San Antonio the first time, that was 2015. So, Morgan Wonderland was newer when I got involved as well. And since the beginning, just a spokesperson for them and advocate. And also I was a part of a team that brought Night to Shine to Tim Tebow's prom. I was a part of that team that brought it to San Antonio first, and we got it at Morgan's Wonderland. So that was a partnership we created because I knew Morgan very well. I did a lot with their events and their programming and then connected them with Tim Tebow. And he came the second or third year and saw Morgan's Wonderland. So I've just been so proud of it. I love sharing it to people when they come in town. We partner with them quite a bit with our own families. Now that they have that medical resource multi-assistance center, the MAC, we also work a lot with them, like Aid the Silence, because we do hearing aids and audiology as well. So that's just a relationship that is important to me. I'm so proud to share it off to visitors because I think that's what makes San Antonio super unique is that we do have an accessible theme park we have an accessible water port, we have an accessible camp, all a part of Morgan's brand.
You're also on the committee for the governor's committee on people with disabilities in Austin too.
Yes, it's my third appointment with him. And so I think I'll keep doing stuff that he likes. Because
Man.
I keep coming back and that has become such a learning experience. When I first joined, I had no idea how government agencies work. I did not know the acronyms. They hand you about a 3-page sheet of all the government acronyms. And
Mm,
so it's kind of overwhelming. And I was very young when I was first appointed. But to see that grow has been really exciting because how it works is that we represent different populations with disabilities. So we represent just that wide spectrum of different needs of people in Texas. So what we do is facilitate the public to the government agency. And so we make very much internal solutions to big problems. We facilitate to where if there's an issue with transportation, licensing, adult protective services, guardianship issues, anything that has to do with the agencies really not doing their job, or maybe they're very much to the number or to the book, but they lost sight of the people.
mhm.
So they're hearing the real public stories to the rural agency. So we try to change rules in house, but then a lot of times they end up having to go to the legislative year. So we actually help write policy that does come across Governor Abbott's desk, and you're working alongside, of course, your legislators and all of that. So that's how you can really implement change. And I'm a big believer of you can't spend your entire life complaining that things are unfair or that you feel like you don't have access. There's ways to actually get your skin in the game. There's ways to make a difference. There's ways to educate people, to go to the Capitol, to help write policy. I just don't believe in complaining without presenting a solution. You need to be a part of the solution. If you really have an issue with it, come up with an idea. Help change it. Don't just complain your entire life. Actually come up with a creative solution because when we have people come and present to the committee, a lot of times it's real serious problems. And I always ask them, what is your solution? What's your idea to fix this? And most of the time they have a legitimate idea that legislators haven't come up with. They're not creative enough. They don't have that perspective of that disability. So really come with a solution when you're presenting to your city council, to the state, and really bring your own ideas to make a difference.
I think bringing solutions to the table is the most effective way for sure. Um, and before we started recording, I loved what you said about how people with disabilities in particular have these characteristics of being creative and being problem solvers because I've said many times having a disability is like having a second job because you're constantly having to advocate for yourself or see all the roadblocks or challenges that just come up because of the disability. Now, that's not like blaming the circumstance of my disabilities because I'm like this, but it's like, oh, this is just what I deal with, and I'm gonna have to just kind of figure it out as you go along. And then on
Hmm.
top of everyday stuff that just a regular human being has to deal with.
Yeah, no, that's a really good perspective, and a lot of it's educating people. I do most of my life with my hearing. I kind of was able to slip under the radar until you heard me speak, or until you saw me use sign language. And then when I got my service dog, Hank, then people started to be like, "Oh, what disability does she have? Or does she really have one?" And so, or I had to figure out how to navigate with a dog. So and most of the time, I don't have a problem. I'm very educated in the laws. My dog is a legitimate service dog. But you do have those moments where it's like the Uber driver sees the dog and leaves, or the airline doesn't know the law as well as we know the law. And so I'll be educating the airline. No, 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 no. I don't pay for the dog. The dog is my an extension of my person. He has all his paperwork. So it's constantly you become like fatigued. So I have the fatigue of trying to listen and understand because my hearing is very profound. I am legally deaf. And so I have that exhaustion all day trying to lip read, use hearing aids, understand. And then you also have another layer of trying to navigate with a dog who does help, with my disability and hearing and keeping me safe. So that took away some of that anxiety for me. That
Mm.
was hard. But now it's another layer of I have to navigate the world with a service dog and trying to understand.
Was that a hard transition for you to get comfortable with Hank?
Yes, at first it did for sure because I was so used to going in and out of places and nobody knew. And then all of a sudden, everybody knew that I had a disability at the moment I walked in.
Mm.
But it was very humbling at first. And now it's second nature. I don't care. I don't give a rip. And Hank's just with me. And he's always with me. I mean, I forget sometimes he's with me because I'm so used to having him.
Mm.
And so I really don't care anymore. But in the beginning, it was very much like, oh, this now is like a flash and a sign that I do have a disability. And so, but I would say I'm not somebody who believes in being a victim. I don't think I'm entitled to anything at all. I believe like I'm still having to show up and do my job and um, not use it as an excuse why I can't do something. So I never use it as I never use it as a reason why I can't do something.
And that's one of the reasons when I started my podcast, and named it Off the Crutch,
Yeah,
because I feel like there are people like me who uses crutches to get around, but then there's also people that have mental crutches that prevents them from maybe achieving their goals or whatever, and
yeah.
that like holds them back. So I definitely see how this relates
Mm,
to your story, and not to say that your disability or, any insert any synonym or phrase that you want, but I don't see it as like your disability, you're overcoming it or you don't let it hold you back. I see you as Emma Faye that is making an
mm,
impact, and just so happens that you are deaf. It just so happens that you use a service dog, but that is all, secondary or third to who you are as
yeah,
a person. And that's what people should be recognizing at the end of the day is
I love that.
who you are.
Yeah, I think that's so true. 'Cause there was when I first won the preliminary Miss America, so Miss San Antonio, I got Miss Texas. There was an article that was posted, and it really bothered me because it said Miss Deaf San Antonio, and I was like, no, 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 it was Miss San Antonio, and I happened to be a deaf contestant. So it was very interesting of like that realization of, um, you know, I didn't want that to be the case. It was always that Emma, because of her deafness, has made her who she is, but it's not the main story. There's so much more to me. And so it's funny because when people meet my people around me, they're very much like, well, you're so in the healing world and this and that. It's like because I truly um deafness just adds that flavor and that difference that makes us unique and beautiful, but it's not my entire personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just part of it.
Which is a good segue because you're also a businesswoman. And last year, I think you won San Antonio Business Journal Woman of the Year.
Yeah, that was actually a few years ago
Oh,
now.
a few years
Yeah,
ago.
but there probably was, there may have been something related to that. I think our nonprofit was one of the finalists for
Oh,
the nonprofit. But yes, but Businesswoman of the Year has been one of my titles. Um, and a lot of it is because I actually took Aid the Silent from it wasn't growing. We had different leadership. So I was doing entertainment, pageants, speaking, and I wasn't running Ava Silent. And then in 2019, it was we weren't growing, we weren't fundraising more. So I took over as executive director then and kind of rebuilt it, honestly, and restructured everything. And then we ended up tripling our donations from 2019 to 2022, just we ended up buying a building. From 2022 to now, we paid off the building. We finished all of the renovation budget for phase one. So now we're going to start renovating most of this building to become the best deaf child center in all of Texas, if not beyond. So that's the business side of it is I could have easily given up. I could have started over. I could have taken a different job. I could have been hired somewhere else. But I decided like I created this. This is my passion. I know how to fix this, and I'm not gonna give up. And there were days that I remember thinking, I can't do this. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never run a company. I've never been a boss. I've never fundraised this amount of money. I've never run a budget like this. I've never been a grant writer. And just having to take it a day at a time and teach myself and learn from people who were smarter than me. And so my previous person who ran the organization was losing tons of grants. I mean, denial after denial of fundraising. And so what I did is I printed off every grant she had lost. And I went to each grant manager of the foundation and I said, what happened here? Walk me through it. Fix this. Like, why did you not like this? Why did you not like this? Why were we denied? And so part of it is you have to be humble enough to learn from people who are smarter than you.
I love your demeanor. I absolutely just love how you navigate not only the world's but just business because you're absolutely right. You want to learn from people who are smarter than you. But at the same time, you have like the self-awareness to know like when something's not working. It's like, yeah, let's figure this out. I don't have time to mess around. And
Hmm.
I see this vision and I want to grow it to the best of its ability.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, because we definitely had that hiccup inside the organization. And I think what people don't realize when you start a nonprofit, it is you most likely will fail within the first year. And to make it to 10 years is really incredible. And to actually grow and increase your budget, to own a building, those are things that you just don't see happening unless you really commit to you will fail. And you learn more from failing than you do succeeding. And most of the time, it's just who's gonna keep getting back up, who's gonna outlast the changes in culture, the changes in fundraising. So a lot of it is that grit of it's easy to stay down, but it's harder to keep getting back up. And most people would rather just give up. They're out. They're calling the quits. And that's something that makes us different is that there is a tenacity, there is a grit. We do show up when it's hard. We do show up when the balance looks really frustrating and low, and we have barriers. Like we've had so many barriers that have happened against major systems. Major systems don't always like the little guy that's trying something different. And so we've gone up against major medical systems, we've gone up against major organizations. And why are we still here? Because we outlast them. We believed in our mission. We believed that there was a better way to do it. than the status quo. And so a lot of it is just showing up and being willing to fail, and also showing up when you have a lot of adversity against you.
Mm. Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah. I mean,
So
there's not,
cool.
it's
Yeah, it's taken 10 years to learn it.
10
So
years, but like you
yeah.
said, like you said in the beginning, it's the long game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's for sure. And
definitely.
that's what makes us stand out with even clients too, is a lot of people would give up on certain kids. A lot of other organizations would say, oh no, this kid isn't progressing, this kid isn't developing language, or this kid isn't doing well in school. And so we play the long game. We'll keep showing up, we'll keep bringing in different therapists, we're bringing in different sign language instructors. So you keep trying a until there is a win, there is a success story.
I just think that your life experiences, and I'm probably not telling you anything that you don't already know. I'm sure that over the years, your
Hmm.
life experiences, prepared you for your position and then
Hmm.
everything that you've been doing for the past 10 years. Because you grow up as a child with a disability and then having to navigate, middle school and then high school. And then
Yeah.
it's like, what do I do after I graduate? And
Hmm.
for you to do the things that you've done over the years, accomplishments and setbacks and like all the messiness, that's just has made you who you are. And I'm just really excited to see what your journey is going to become like 5, 10 years from now.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And it's been fun getting to know you. And I followed your story for a while, but yeah, especially when you see people that have that same tenacity of grit. And so it is just showing up when it's hard. That's just the biggest secret to being successful, is just keep showing up and keep knocking on doors till they open. But yeah, I would definitely say my childhood prepared me for this, all of those challenges, all of the setbacks. I was horribly made fun of for my speech, um, for how I talk, and I just God has the best sense of humor. He wants to use what people think is unusable. He wants to use it and for the story. And so now that's my job as I speak and I'm in front of people and I'm presenting to people. And that is what my biggest insecurity was all of my life, is my voice. I can even think about as a child, I wrote voices too. And I remember being bucked off and like falling off the horse because I was so little, like 6 years old, 6 years old on this big horse. And my dad would always say, okay, you got bucked off, immediately get back on the horse. Immediately. Don't even let fear build. Don't let any time pass between the moment you fell off the horse to the moment you get back on. And so that's kind of the motto of my life. A lot of times is don't even give yourself time to develop a fear of failing. You just like you fall off, you get back on. You fall off, you get back on. And so that applied to my hearing loss, that applied to what we're doing now. And it's beautiful to look back and be like, the story could have ended there. And now I call it A the Silent 2.0. It's the second decade that we're moving into. And so it's like, there's going to be more challenges, but you also, challenges mean blessings too. They mean like more opportunities.
Awesome. I think that's a good place to end it because you've said so many wonderful pieces of wisdom, and ending it on this note, I think will leave my listeners feeling hopeful and feeling appreciative. So I appreciate you, Emma, and I can't wait to see you in 6 weeks.
Yay! I'm going to come support you. I'm excited. Yep.
That
You're going
means
to
a
meet
lot to
Hank.
me. Yes.
Hank the Tank. Yep.
Hank the Tank, and there's also going to be a window to take pictures with the speakers. So we'll definitely take some pictures together with
Yes.
Hank. It'll be so exciting. And I'm just really grateful that you're going to be there.
Thanks, Travis. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.